I do think that Bible schools are helpful. You know, if you're not a self-starter, then you need the pressure of a teacher saying, you know, I want an outline on the first 5 chapters of Romans by Wednesday. And that forces you had a grade, and so you're being forced to do what you really want to do. You want to know God's Word, but sometimes people are just not good self-starters. And thus, I see that the Bible colleges become great assets there, because it's worth the tuition just to be forced to do the things that you really want to do and should do, but don't do, because there are other things to be done too. So there is the advantage to it, and I would recommend a good Bible college that didn't deal with a lot of other issues, just dealt with the Bible.
All right. Sometimes when people ask me where they should go, I tell them, well, one of the things you have to understand is that seminaries basically train seminarians how to talk to other seminarians. And if I can borrow from one of Chuck's statements, I said, if you're going to go to seminary, you need to do something to redeem your time. You need to get involved totally in a local church. Ask the pastor if you can teach 9-year-old boys, 3rd grade boys.
You betcha.
And take what you learn from the seminary and try to teach it to them. If you can't teach it, forget it. What you can teach, hang on to it. Anything you want to add to that?
I think the only thing that I'd add is that sometimes what we're seeking is some of the practical information that maybe you won't pick up through a Bible study. How do you officiate a funeral? How do you do a wedding ceremony? And I'll only encourage you that if you're that interested, to go alongside of your pastor and say, hey, I'd like to watch you officiate this so that I can understand how best to do it. It's interesting, but after as many years as I've been officiating funeral services, if you've ever heard me do one, which you haven't, I start mine the same way I know Pastor Chuck starts his, because it was when I heard him officiate a funeral service that I said, hey, you know what? He's captured the spirit of what we need to say. And yet what you'll learn sometimes in a seminarian atmosphere is nothing more than liturgy that is a void of the Spirit, so you find yourself just moving your mouth. In the same way, it's interesting, is the first time I was ever asked to guest speak at a church, it wasn't a Calvary chapel, it was a little Korean church near the Calvary chapel, and my first time, I'd gotten finished with the sermon, and as I was leaving the pulpit going back, the senior pastor was going to cross my path, and he in a sense whispered in my ear, I'll call you back for the benediction. Now, being a Calvary guy, I was face to face with a rare predicament. I didn't know what a benediction was. He stood up, thanked me for being there, and now as he's coming back, and we're going to pass each other again, I say, what's a benediction? Well, timing was perfect, because he said, it's a closing prayer. And I said, oh, I can do that. I can do a benediction. Just tell me what it is. Just don't use that fancy seminarian word. I can close in prayer. I can bless the people. Just don't complicate matters with those fancy words. So I think a lot of times, what you're seeking, don't seek. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it plain in conversation. And I think we'll end up being even a greater blessing to the people. Even when I'll do, some things. Gail taught me about weddings. He said years ago he decided to do a wedding where he wasn't the focal point. Where for too many years, the couple would stand there facing him, and he's out looking at all the people, and he realized the people that are there are not coming to see him, they're coming to see the couple. So he switched the whole thing around, and now he put his back to the people and let the people see the people that they are in love with. And I thought, that's pretty novel. It's a little out of the ordinary, but nonetheless, we can break some of those rules. We're Calvary Chapel pastors.
I want to ask you another question, Bob. Often, and I've seen this and I've heard people say this too, that 5% of the people can absolutely demand 90% of your time. how do you go about actually making the most of your time and serving the most people? How do you protect yourself from the unnecessary and choose to serve, in the right ways for the majority of the people?
I think that it has to be, in all of our hearts, a daily decision. We wake up in the morning, we say we're going to do the very, very best we can. And the things that I can do, the people the Lord sends me to, or the people that are set in my path, something I learned from Pastor Chuck some time ago, that if I prepare my day for a few interruptions, then interruptions aren't interruptions because I've prepared my heart for those things. So I don't find myself then frustrated at the moment saying, I came into my day with everything so planned that now I've lost my ability to be flexible. What I try instead to do, and I've tried to move outside that arena of hour after hour, everything is formatted and programmed, I try and really wake up in the morning with a heart willing to listen, go into the office, and as I look at the day, I try and plan accordingly. Now, I don't want to be misunderstood because schedules and day timers are very, very important, and being organized, I believe, is part of our Christ-like character. Nonetheless, there's a balance between the two, and I think that balance many times is found in delegation. I can't do everything. And the day that you learn that you can't do everything and that there is somebody who God will place around you that can probably do some of the things you can't do better than you can do, and you can deal with that, I think that that's the point in time where you'll really find yourself going to the next step, doing what you're called to do well, let somebody else call what they can do well, and now, when I put my head to the pillow at night, I've done my best. And that's all I really can do. As Chuck again always says, I do my best, commit the rest, that's where we're left. Now, I don't know if I need to sound more practical than that, but that's as practical as it gets for me.
We'll accept that.
Thank you. Yeah.